Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. I'm gonna be real here with you guys. I've been feeling rather uninspired lately. There just hasn't been anything showing up that just knocks my socks off. It's been harder to get guitars to review and demo, the market's being weird, and as a daily upload channel, I have to talk about something. But finally, inspiration has struck today. I saw this thing, instantly click on it, get that record button going, we gotta talk about this thing. So, look at this thing. It's called the Gibson Les Paul China Dragon. Masterpiece, custom electric guitar, quilted maple, fire tiger. That's got a whole lot of stuff going on here, and it's from our friend at the Acoustic Room, and you know this guy always gets the craziest of crazies. So my first thing seeing this, it's like, oh man, please tell me this is a Les Paul and not an Archtop, because Gibson always does the super fancy Archtops, but we haven't seen a really decked out Les Paul in a while. But let's take the time to really dissect this. So we get a Gibson mother of pearl logo. That's nothing necessarily new, but we've got abalone flames beside it on each side. That's pretty cool. Then, hey, what is this? It's our beautiful little dragon friend. Very old world dragon looking here, but it really reminds me of like the SNAKEPIT Les Paul, you know, the original ones, but except for this time, instead of being on the fretboard, it is on our headstock. Because its underside is mother of pearl, and then the scales are abalone, and then you have like some sort of an interesting mix for its flange back here. You got a big old mustachio down up in mother of pearl. Who doesn't want that? Abalone nose. Just a whole bunch of stuff going on here. But in case the flames by the logo weren't enough, they've matched the symmetry by also doing it down here, and we get a straight up mother of pearl truss rod cover. Once again with another little friendly dragon here. Oh, and in case you missed it, the entire headstock is red. It's flame maple. It's a figured veneer. It's actually a two-piece veneer, so it kind of looks like the top of a regular Les Paul. But hey, Gibson, when I ask you to do this on a custom order for me, you tell me no, and then this, you just... It makes me upset. Is it our price point here, or is just somebody doesn't want to go through the trouble? My money's good enough. But anyways, look at our tuner tips. Those are the Grover Imperials. However, I think they've actually gone and used real mother of pearl. One of my favorite gifts I've ever gotten was actually a mother of pearl dice. That was back when I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! So that kind of reminds me of that, because generally I believe the Grover Imperials aren't normally made of that quite a fancy of material. All right, so that was just the headstock. Now it's time to see. Is it a Les Paul? Is it an Archtop? Yeah, I know, I already told you it's a Les Paul here in the title, but I had not read that yet. So then I switch over to this and it's like, oh yes, it's a Les Paul. Not gonna lie, the headstock's probably one of the coolest things about this guitar, but there's still some other stuff to talk about here. I wasn't really knowing what to expect, but awesome quilt top. Kind of looks like, you know, flames like really bursting out of your dragon here because he's breathing stuff. We'll talk about the fretboard in a minute, but that is a very dark red top. It definitely reminds me of the Gibson Bats in Flight Les Paul, which, just in case you don't know about it, the first year they did this kind of trans purplish finish. Just kind of depends on what example you're looking at. But then they follow that up the next year. This is a Guitar Center Musician's Friend exclusive, by the way. They did it in red, but the Bats in Flight, it's a play on the Doves in Flight model. But you get little bat guys up here on the headstock, also on the fretboard, and there's also an acoustic version. You can check out this video if you need to learn more about those. But anyways, see this top? Look over here. Very, very similar. You've got your two gold humbuckers. Surprisingly, they didn't do any like fancy engravings on here. Normally Crimson Division high-end stuff does that. But I really love the addition of the gilded out knobs here. Nice gold toppers on them. Slightly aged. No pick guard, although it would have been cool had they put like a wooden dragon pick guard on here and just like paint it up, make it look good. Maybe that'd be a little bit too extreme. But then of course we must take a look at our fretboard. So, you know, kind of like SNAKEPIT, but in a different light. We've got that same dragon on our fretboard. I do not want to know how long it would take to do that, because it looks like it would be quite some time, because they've got some nice pieces in there. Like, I'm sure photos do this absolutely no justice, because when you get it in the light, I mean, everything's gonna shine and shimmer and sparkle, and that puppy goes all the way up the neck. Now, if you think that's a little bit too ornate, I guess I kind of agree with you. It kind of takes over the entire thing. Sometimes a more simplistic design will stand out, but this is meant to be an eye-catching piece, so probably better appreciated in person. So that's what the entire top looks like. Okay, that's pretty cool. But now let's flip it over to the back. Is there anything special here? Well, we can see they're actually the Grover Imperial tuners that we were talking about, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces of wood. Yes, that's right. A 5-piece neck actually has 7 pieces if you count the headstock wings, but that's all super flame maple, and then you get your 2 walnut stripes running down here. But look at our serial number, CS201093. Okay, so how you read custom shop serial numbers in this exact format. This tells you the year of production. We have a Gibson custom decal, but that entire neck is just completely figured out. But it's not necessarily just the figuring that makes this cool. I think it really comes down to the way that they finished it. They must have had like a double staining effect going on, because this is extra dark in the black area, so that is a special finish. I mean, look at the headstock from this angle. That must be some seriously moving figuring. But otherwise, a 5-piece neck is not necessarily that crazy. But now let's look at the back here. Yeah. That's another thing that tells you it's a 2022 is you get that special medallion, but 2-piece back veneer here, but ultra wide quilt. Now the bad thing about quilt is it doesn't really move as well in person. Some examples do, but not quite as much as the figuring of the flame. But where they kind of let me down on this is if everything on this thing is flamed, including the front and back of the headstock, why not the sides, guys? I'm not seeing the veneers on the sides. They can do it. They did it on the Les Pauls back in 1976. They did it on the Super Customs. They've done it on some runs since then. But perhaps they just thought, that'd be too crazy. We got to draw a line somewhere, right? So yeah, what a magnificent new art piece. Now you might be saying, hey Trogly, well, why get so excited about this if it's just kind of similar to like a Les Paul Ultima or any of like the Harp ladies or even like the Butterfly Les Paul Customs within the Crimson division? And you know, honestly, I think you're right. This is just a new fretboard design within that, where I'm sure they have the CNC files. They could probably make you another one. It would just be kind of expensive, because other than that, I mean, it's just a regular Les Paul custom with a super cool finish and very choice woods. And in fact, I would actually say this is rather tame. I'm just excited about it because we finally have this outfit on a Les Paul. I'm not sure if they've done it before or not. But when I looked at this doofy dragon on the headstock, I thought, we've seen that before. I know we have. And sure enough, it was about 3 years ago. I'm sure I have another video on this one out there. This is the Super 400 Dragon. Okay, this is the first time we've seen it. So let's kind of compare and contrast here. This headstock has the same symmetry with the flames. It's got another dragon on the pearl headstock, same thing with their tuners, but oh, look at our Gibson logo here. They decided to use the old pre-war one, you know, kind of like a Les Paul Artisan. Whereas over here, they decided to do the regular Gibson one, and hey, they shrunk our dragon. What's up with that? Now granted, the Super 400 headstock is giant. Of course they had to do that. And it might have came down to our little whiskers right here that they had to make sure that it would fit in between the tuners, but they definitely could have enlarged that to really just, you know, come about up to here, similar to what they did here. So after comparing these two side by side, it's like, you know, I think I actually prefer this one. Although at the same time, I really like seeing this whole design on the more modern Gibson headstock. And of course we have the difference in truss rod cover styles. Then in case you missed that last episode, this is what the face of that guitar looked like. They had dragons here, they had dragons there, fretboard, they had a relief carving of a dragon all over the top. And of course you also had to have another dragon here on the crest of the tailpiece. This thing just went so crazy. And I've actually spoken with the guy who does the carvings for Gibson, and he always enjoys doing big projects like these. It can take him quite a long time to produce something like this. But then look at the back of the neck on this one. It's also figured maple, but they did dragon scales on the back. Kind of got some Dean Z-Glide stuff going on here. I bet that neck would actually feel kind of interesting to play. And then we had another relief carving on the back. I mean, this thing was just all done up. I mean, it even has a black stinger with all the inlays and stuff there. This was one of the most ambitious pieces of recent history anyways, as far as dragons and Super 400s and relief carvings and going crazy go. So after looking at this thing, and then you go back to the Les Paul version, it's like, okay, I mean, this is relatively tame in the realm of super crazy art fancy guitars. Sure, you got the headstock and the fretboard, but everything else is, you know, within realm that you normally see. So they could have made this even more extreme, but they chose not to. So that's why I kind of got excited to see this, because it's different. And you could potentially make Gibson do another one of these in like a purple finish or maybe a green finish. Any color that you want your Gibson at. So how much is the Les Paul? $35,000. Now before you go, to that, remember, this bad guy was $150,000. Now you also have to remember that's the dealer's price. What Gibson ended up selling it for was probably very different, but that's this guy's business. I mean, look at everything that he sells. It's things you don't normally see. Like, since we've got some time today, there's his SJ200 here with the abalone Gibson logo and those flowers of mother of pearl. That thing's looking fancy. And I could actually see like a country rock star using something like this because it's very simple and elegant. Sometimes doing the flame figuring and all that other stuff almost takes away from everything else, but I really like that rosette that they've got going on here, matching pickguard to everything else. And then just some subtle figuring back here. That's a pretty cool piece. He's also got this Ren Ferguson designed one. This thing's got some interesting like black and white themes going on. Checkered board. So we've got a mother of pearl like trapezoid extended right there. Then you get like the shadow of the vine behind it. But then you see the actual vine right here. That's a really cool theme. And it looks like we've got the flower pot behind our truss rod cover on that one. We get our engraved golden pieces. And oh wow, there's a lot going on there. So another flower pot vine running up and down the entire thing. However, you've got your normal blocks. So we'll zoom in here so you can kind of see what we're talking about. That just has a freaky effect to it. I like it. That's cool. Although I could see how that could get confusing as a player maybe, but then you get to this and no pickguard, no pickups, nothing. It's just plain, and I kind of like that. But you've got the continuation of your checkered board binding right here. Oh man, we even get a vine on that. That's crazy. Multiply bound F-holes. And then you just... So that's like a vintage sunburst type finish. But then back here, you've got more of a tri-burst going on, but then you just get random koa on the back. They just kind of got a whole bunch of different colors going on. Okay. It's a magnificent back. Nicely flamed neck. Oh, and we got some carvings on the heel. That's always fancy and costs a lot to have Gibson do for you. Oh man, even the sides are made out of koa on this thing. I don't think I've ever seen Gibson do a koa back and side archtop. At least that's what I think it is. Certainly what it looks like anyways. Oh, and apparently Washburn does these types of things too. I didn't know that. You guys know I like my animal influenced guitars, so having a dolphin on here, I really like that. The inlaying of different style of woods on the headstock. Okay. Whoa. Was not expecting dolphin F-holes. And a little surfboard pickguard. We've actually seen similar stuff to other ones, but I didn't realize Washburn made this style of instrument to this kind of caliber. It's interesting. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it is a great way to utilize a guitar as a piece of functional art. I really like the back though, especially with our heel cap with another dolphin on it. Oh, and now we've got another Washburn by Yuriy Shishkov, which is a Fender custom shop builder. So apparently he joined the custom shop in the year 2000. And last I heard, he was getting pretty close to retiring. But this one was built in 1999 when he was working for Washburn, I guess. I don't know his full story. Might have to dig into that later. So he's been doing fancy art guitars for quite some time here with maybe a few different companies. It's certainly different from what we normally see from him. When I think Yuriy, I think a Telecaster such as this. He likes to do the gold lace inlays and then all the bedazzling jewels over everything. I've actually documented one of these. It was done as a charity guitar, but this is another one that is currently available at this guy's shop. My biggest thing I don't like about these is the satin finish. I think a gloss would look better, but I'm betting it has something to do with, the way the bedazzled jewels are in there. It has to be a satin finish, but that's just my own personal preferences. But one cool thing about having a large sound port right here is you can actually see, despite the really dark finish, the flame figuring of the woods on the inside. But I really like this, a planet influenced guitar. You've got some comets, some Saturns, some stars and specks. That fretboard looks really nice. Maybe a couple of rocket ships and moons built in there too. That's certainly an interesting piece. Looks like he's got another one of the rose ones if you're interested, this time in a natural finish. That's a very classy looking guitar, and they didn't do the fretboard this time. So if you wanted a little bit less of the same design everywhere, that might be more your style. Wow, that's a pinstripey back and sides and neck. Now we've got one from Harvey Leach, described by him as a master inlay artist. Huh. Dragon looks a little bit familiar, but I mean, if we're being real here, all these guys are just borrowing it from China. Oh, interesting. A high-end 0-fret nut guitar. Okay. Whoa. Whole bunch of stuff going on here. Got a little panda sitting there. Kind of parlor-sized-esque instrument here. Looks like very fine woods, well crafted. However, that's not my style of artwork on this one. For me, it comes down to like the cartoony colors that I think puts me off on that, but everybody has a different style that they like. But that is our Great Wall of China guitar here. Wow, there's a lot of detail when you zoom in there. And that fretboard is pretty darn cool. We've also got the gold frets. It's really complex down here, but then softens up a little bit in your first frets. So I think I got my point across. This guy definitely has some interesting pieces. So we'll have to see how long the Dragon Les Paul's kicking around. I'm sure I'll get a comment or two saying, hey, that's the Trogly Les Paul. It's a Dragon, you want it, right? For me, I like the cartoony Dragons. So it's not one I would want to own, but I would happily document it if somebody wants to new guitar day, this $35,000 Les Paul. All right, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care.